So EA has just been mutilating the Star Wars IP in video game form for years now. Their death grip made us think we'd be doomed to just play mobile and multiplayer games littered with loot boxes and various other microtransactions forever. We did have one single-player Star Wars title in development by Visceral, but of course EA couldn't let that happen, so they canceled production in a big way by closing down the studio entirely. Yes, the studio that created the Dead Space franchise was killed because they dared. They had the audacity to try and make a single-player Star Wars game. Things have been dire for this IP in the video game realm for sure, but Respawn provided us a beacon of hope when they announced that they'd be working on a story-driven Star Wars game a while back. Then at E3 this past year, we got this very weird announcement for the game during EA's press conference, where it didn't even happen on the stage. We went into the crowd to have a one-on-one chat with Respawn's Vince Impella, where he revealed the title of the game was Jedi Fallen Order. And that's pretty much it. We're going to play a Jedi, obviously, but yeah, we got no logo or anything else. And until now, they've been pretty much dark on the game leading up to this big reveal they've been hyping at Star Wars Celebration. And over the past couple of days, we did learn some interesting info from their official Twitter, where they confirmed the game will be 100% single player. There won't even be any multiplayer modes. Also, there will be no microtransactions or loot boxes. It's still funny, in my opinion, that we live in an age where this is a major selling point for a game. Like, hey, we're not going to nickel and dime you if you want to, say, get different colors for your lightsaber. And it's supposed to be this big bombshell because we as consumers just expect them to do that to us at this point. Companies like EA have conditioned us to just assume going in that they're going to screw us over. So they have to brag about how they're being so pro-consumer when they decide to not do so. I will say myself, I am still very skeptical about this aspect. Given their track record, these types of things can always be added post-launch. That seems to be the new way. A lot of these companies try to get away with this crap. Launch with no microtransactions, wait for the reviews and word of mouth to start spreading, then add them in after the fact. And there's always DLC too. I mean, I do love quality DLC, but if this game comes out and feels like an unfinished adventure only to have DLC drop soon after or even on day one that completes it, that's a huge problem in my opinion as well. But yeah, they are really trying to advertise that this is essentially not an EA game. They've been going out of their way, it seems, to distance this title from the practices of other titles they've produced. But I've got to say, this was a very EA reveal. Again, we already got an initial tease at E3 last year that told us nothing beyond the title, not even a logo or anything, like I said. And at this event, all we got was a cinematic trailer. I mean, geez, what a drip of information. No gameplay was shown. And they confirmed this game is coming out November of this year, so it's not like this is a title that's far off into the future in terms of its release. I found this to be extremely underwhelming. Now, as a cinematic trailer, I did like it. I wasn't blown away by it, but I do love the concept. If you're unaware, this game takes place in a post-Order 66 Star Wars universe where nearly all of the Jedi have been eradicated, and the Empire is hunting down the remaining ones. And your character is a Padawan survivor and is largely trying to just, survive in this world where he can't trust anyone and has to try and keep his identity as a Force user hidden. The part that was actually the highlight for me was when we had the main character working on this, Star Destroyer excavation site, and the whole thing starts to fall apart and his buddy, falls off the platform, and he has this little brief moment of hesitation, I want to save him, but I don't want to use my Force powers. I think making moments like that, decisions the player makes in the game, could be phenomenal. I don't know if they said anything about any player choice, but that would be really cool. Of course, events will ensue that push him to taking on the Empire and all that good stuff. One of the Sister Inquisitors is actually going to be the villain, or at least one of the villains in this game, which was probably cool to see if you watched the Star Wars Rebels TV show. So I think the story, sounds great so far. The character and world design looked solid. We were introduced to the Purge Trooper, which I also Love the name and design. The angry-looking red eye slots I thought were sick, and they're trained, of course, with the sole purpose of hunting down and killing Jedi. Yeah, lore sounds great, but I think we needed that gameplay at this point. This title is 7 months away from release, and sure, we'll probably see it at E3, but remember, EA is not doing a press conference this year, so maybe the game could show up during, like, Microsoft's conference or something. But here you had Star Wars Celebration. We've got all the other Star Wars news happening, the big trailer for Episode 9 dropping. Everyone has Star Wars fever right now. There will not be a better time, in my opinion, to fully showcase this game. With 7 months till launch, the game's got to be close to finished. I feel like there's no reason you couldn't have polished up not just a trailer with gameplay, but even a gameplay slice to demo for people. Show off some of the moves and force powers, because, I want to have faith. I do. A lot of people want to say, oh, it's Respawn, of course they're going to do great. Yeah, that's how I used to talk about BioWare. BioWare, the company that made Knights of the Old Republic, certainly one of the best Star Wars game franchises ever made. They followed that up with the first Mass Effect trilogy, another legendary sci-fi IP that they created. But then they made Mass Effect Andromeda, and most recently Anthem. There is already a firmly established precedent under EA, with quality studios churning out garbage product. If you want people like me to get hype about your games after being burned so many times, you've got to do better than this. Star Wars Battlefront 2 had some fancy cinematic trailers drop before it released as well. Also promised a fantastic single-player experience, remember that? And how did things turn out for that game? Now, to be clear, I'm not saying Jedi Fallen Order can't or won't be an amazing Star Wars game. That's what I'm hoping for. I've been craving a quality single-player Star Wars title for what feels like forever. And I want this game to live up to the hype. But again, you're following up what has been a series of flops released under EA. Games that didn't respect the fans, even tried to exploit their fandom. And you got the appropriate backlash. In fact, it's obvious that a lot of this game's marketing, the whole, oh, there won't be any microtransactions, loot boxes deal, is in direct response to the criticisms that have been levied against EA lately. That's why I always say you gotta bitch about the practices you don't like. It's not enough these days to just not buy a game. You've got to let these companies know why you're not buying them if you want to see change. And in that arena, what we've heard about this title has been positive, but for a game that releases in 7 months, to have no gameplay shown at this big reveal showcase at Star Wars Celebration, the biggest Star Wars event that only takes place every 2 years, I can't help but say it's a bit worrisome. I'm not saying anything negative about what they did show. If they showed this maybe at last year's E3, I think it would have been fine. But once more, this is the game that is supposed to make us believe that quality Star Wars games can exist. And I do have complete faith that Respawn is capable of this. And yes, they just put out Apex Legends, which has gotten a fantastic reception from players, but the Star Wars games put out under EA have continually been subpar experiences for years. If you want me to get hype over a new Star Wars game that is also being published by EA, you've got to show me more than a cinematic. I just can't get hype for anything less when a title has EA's name attached to it. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the Jedi Fallen Order reveal in the comments. Do you have faith that this is going to be the game that revives Star Wars games? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of the Jedi Fallen Order reveal. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter, @JohnnyZakari, and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends, link to both in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching.